join us by the fireside for our evening tales of true life's strange experiences with things that lie beyond the veil of the known and into the misty depths of the mysterious and unknown. Someone was in the room. When I was a teenager, my mom and I went on vacation together to a resort. We were halfway through our vacation at this point, and then I fell asleep, but then I woke up again at 1 a.m., and it was very sudden. I immediately had this deep and dreadful feeling that someone was in our room. I can't even begin to explain this feeling, but I was absolutely terrified. It's just, unless you've had the experience yourself, you just don't know what it's like. But I was terrified. I was able to move, so it wasn't sleep paralysis, but I was way too frightened to get up and just to check the rest of the room, just to see what was going on. We were in a foreign country, just me and my mom. I stared at the front door and I was certain that someone would either walk in or walk out. I have no idea how much time passed, but my focus eventually shifted to the other side. I had to flip over the balcony door. I sort of calmed myself down a bit at this point, but I was certain that someone was actually in the room, and I was so frightened to go back to bed. I stared at the balcony door until the sun rose, and I promptly passed out because I felt safe then. I remember it being such an intense gaze, and it was like laser sharp focus was focused at me. I woke up the next morning and I was extremely frightened about the whole experience, and I had this sense of dread and fear that I felt last night, and I was exhausted. And then on our way to breakfast, my mom and I stopped by the payphone. This is like 15 years ago, before it was cheap to call international. She called her business partner to ask how the last few days went by, and I could see the shock creep on her face. And the long story short is, while I was freaking out about an intruder, my mom had a dream that her business partner's ex-husband was on our balcony and saying some menacing things about his ex-wife to my mom. My mom was confused about this dream because she had only met the guy once or twice, and she just assumed it was a random dream. In the dream, he was saying that he's gone now, and she was asking him if he moved to a different state or country. When she called her business partner, the woman told her that the ex-husband had killed himself the night before, so the business is going to be closed for a few days. My mom was in deep shock about her dream, and so was I. I told Mom about my experience, and she said we can never talk about it again. So this is just the wildest and most frightening experience and memory I have ever had with my mom. Oh God, that is such a creepy thing, such a creepy experience. I can't imagine how you just lay there in bed, feeling that there was a person in your room, an intruder, and and probably even you had a feeling it might be some kind of ghost or something, but you just lay there. I think I would have just ran to the door and I would have just gone out of there screaming or something. So you must either be really brave or you were just so scared that you just were practically paralyzed. I don't know. But good to hear that, you survived it. So all the best to you. The graveyard. I went to a graveyard and it was probably around midnight, and I was with a group of friends, and we went to visit an old friend who died in a car accident. While we were standing around his grave, we were telling stories about him, and I heard this faint voice. It was like an elderly woman's voice. One of my friends said out loud, "Oh crap, WTF." I stand up and look towards the source. There was a very old woman, literally dressed in a white tattered nightgown, and she was only about 100 feet away. She started talking to us, and she said, "Sir, Get over here now. I need help. We just stood frozen. Nobody said anything. The part that really freaked me out was that she used the singular word sir, when clearly there were five of us. She started walking closer and she started speaking again, but even louder. Boys, I need your help now. Note the plurality. And then she literally started running towards us and she was screaming nonsense. We were all so scared out of our wits. So we ran back to the car with this old woman chasing us close behind. When we reached the car, which was a two-door, and everyone got in before me, including the driver, so the driver's seat was blocking my entrance to the back seat. I yelled as I approached the car, and he got out and let me in. The door slammed, and we just flew down the small graveyard roads to the opposite side where the exit was. And this is where things got really scary and weird. We got to the other side of the graveyard, and it was probably in about 10 seconds. I don't know. We were just speeding towards the exit, and we were going so fast. And we approached the curb in the road, and it was really well lit. And suddenly, the old lady ran onto the road, and she ran over there fast. I could see her trying to chase us down, and finally, she let out the most terrifying scream I've ever heard. It sounded like she was being murdered slowly and painfully or tortured. We fled the scene just seconds after, and we never returned. 4 other friends of mine can testify as witnesses to that night. By far the most terrifying experience in my life and something I will never forget. Wow, well, don't go to graveyards at night as far as I'm concerned. It just does not sound safe. I mean, even if you don't believe in this kind of stuff, sooner or later something's going to happen and you're going to end up believing. Nightmares. Later in my teens, I used to have nightmares quite frequently. These were semi-lucid dreams, insofar as I knew I wasn't awake, but I couldn't actually control what was happening. The nightmares were always different experiences, but I had the same objective in each one of them, and that was to save as many people as I can from whatever was happening. There would be people around me who'd be dying from being shot or attacked by wild animals or dying from fire, and I would have to sacrifice myself to try and save them. The thing was, there was always this reoccurring theme, this thing in my dreams with me. Once it was a doctor and he had no face, and another time it was a bear. I even remember it being the front door to a house once. Whatever it was, it always had the same strange foreign feeling. I don't think I created this in my mind. I honestly think it came in. It would always be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and it would hinder my objective in the nightmare. And this strange thing would ensure my nightmare took the worst turn possible. Then I would get sacrificed in some way and die. I wouldn't wake up like you normally do when the bad thing gets you, though. It would continue until I experienced my own death, and the pain was always included. And then I'd stand up, perhaps as a ghost or something. And I would just have this overwhelming need to scratch myself on some part of my body. I would scratch at my leg or my back or my face, and the dream would then shortly end after that. The next morning, I'd wake up and I'd have scratches all over my body where I scratched myself in the dream. This always freaked me out, but then the dreams went away. And then one night, I had a really bad dream. I couldn't seem to die in this dream, and I couldn't even scratch. I was getting really afraid. My wife, who was my girlfriend at that time, tried waking me up. She says I would not wake up, and I was crying. I vividly remember her waking me up and me being unable to move with a giant dark shadow that loomed over our bed. I don't think I'll ever forget feeling that helpless. I told her about it the next morning and came clean about the scratches. She had asked about them before. After that night, though, I didn't have the nightmares anymore. They just went away. Last year, I actually found out that my wife at that time had talked to the father of her church and who agreed to come to our apartment and bless the place. He spent about 45 minutes and he was mostly in the bedroom, and she said she had an uneasy feeling the whole time. But the piece that just bugs me the most is him blessing our place without my knowledge and the nightmares just going away after that. I'm not really a religious person, but I'm shaking now and I need to stop writing. And this has been an experience that has shaken me to the core for the rest of my life. Wow, that sounds like it sounds like you're having some kind of past life recall or something. Perhaps multiple lifetimes where you suffered some traumas. That's my understanding of this kind of stuff anyway. And there's also something looming in that room, perhaps, that's somehow opening your memory to some of those things that happened to you, those traumas. But this presence seems like it was probably malignant, um, because it was doing something to you to bring up these awful memories. And so the priest likely just drove it away. And so you were able to just shut that down and not relive, those traumas again, which were really throwing you out of balance. So based on what I know, that would be my opinion. But, it's up to you what you believe in or not.